Tennessee is still, even though in the latter stages of it, rebuilding a program, not just to compete for championships every year, which they have done, but to make that an annual thing. So I thought a fantastic column by our own Caleb Calhoun that is on the website now. I would highly suggest you check that out. And it's the 5 things schools and athletic directors overrate when trying to build their college football program. So we're going to talk recruiting, off-field gimmicks, college football games being broadcast nationally, the college pedigree of a head coach, and then prestige. So let's get to that now. And it's brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. I'm about to make my move. Andy Mason of AndyMasonRealEstate.com is who I will call because almost 40 years of experience in the real estate field there in Andy Mason's group. And he is fantastic. Best prices, best service in the biz. It ain't close. So here is your list. Let's break it down as it's brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. So the top 5 things, and I'm going to pitch them at you, and I'll give you my retort. Number 5, a coach's ability to recruit. Why is that overrated?
Because I think there is a baseline in recruiting, and you have to be committed. You have to meet that baseline of commitment. Philip Fulmer met that baseline. Nick Saban meets that baseline. And the baseline I'm talking about is you have to be fully, thoroughly committed to recruiting. Outside of that commitment, though, because there's about 50 coaches that are committed like that to recruiting. There are about 50 coaches in college football at any given time who are that committed. After that, it's about the other structural advantages of the program. Whether or not you're in a location that, whether or not you're in close to a player's backyard in a location, whether or not you've had success yourself as a head coach that could get a player to the NFL. These things matter. I don't think, with Fulmer in the 90s, Tennessee was playing all over the country at that time, so they were much more noticeable. And so I think that you have to be able to be committed to heavily recruiting, but you reach a level where you're not going to just, when Jeremy Pruitt was hired, the whole concept was, oh, he's a great recruiter. Well, I mean, when you give them McDonald's bags of cash, yes, you can be. But on top of that, there's 100 other great recruiters or 50 others in the SEC alone. So Jeremy Pruitt versus Nick Saban for Alabama or for a kid from Georgia, doesn't matter how hard Jeremy Pruitt works at recruiting. He's not going to be able to outsell Alabama.
I'm going to give you 2 better examples, actually, with Tennessee. Butch Jones wasn't a great evaluator of talent. He just wanted the guy that had a 4-star next to him, or he was going to push that guy via recruiting services from a 3-star to a 4-star. So I don't think he was a great recruiter. And I don't think Derek Dooley was a great recruiter. I was told he didn't go to one high school football game his entire time at Tennessee. I think Tennessee recruited itself. So for a far different reason, I'm going to completely agree with you. A coach's ability to recruit. You can do more at Tennessee than you can say TCU, who I know made the college football playoff, but Tennessee has more to offer. TCU has more players nearby. But yes, I think you're limited as far as a coach's ability to recruit to the school you're at. Nick Saban wouldn't be considered one of the best recruiters of all time if he was at Kansas State. It just wouldn't happen. Number 4, you had off-field gimmicks that create buzz. I'm going to take a second here just to give an ovation to one Caleb Calhoun, because I was thinking about 3rd down for what over the season and how stupid that was. I know that's kind of an on-field gimmick. That stuff just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all, Calhoun.
It doesn't. And the example I gave, it was 12 years ago. I was at that Maryland Monday Night Football game when they displayed those hideous uniforms. Remember that, Dave? They got famous for the ugly uniforms.
Yeah, I was working for ESPN, so I had to call all the Maryland recruits. And what do you think of it? And it was so funny that you bring that up, because the recruits would say, those are neat because it's about the school. And then I would say, kind of off the record, they kind of look like a hot mess. And each of them would go, well, they need to work on them a little bit.
Yes, and I had friends that were Maryland fans at the time be like, you don't get it, Buzz is Buzz, and the football team
you don't get it. That's what they all said. You don't get it unless you're a Maryland guy. Well, most of the prospects aren't from Maryland.
Exactly. And guess what? Maryland went 2-10 that year. That was one of their 2 wins, and they never had more than 7 wins under Randy until they fired him 5 years later. So it clearly didn't work.
And the flip side is Tennessee has gone with black jerseys and they've made things different. Well, the Tennessee fans that are tried and true, that's just blasphemy. But to a prospect in California, they're like, man, those black uniforms look pretty tight. I mean, if it were up to me, there wouldn't be alternate uniforms at Tennessee, but I understand the point, and I can't blame them for that.
But they're doing the black uniforms, and they're winning with them. So, for instance, Butch Jones brought out the smoky grays. That didn't help him recruit. His recruiting classes got consistently worse each year because it didn't matter that he wore the smoky grays. As a matter of fact, the last time Tennessee did the smoky grays under Butch Jones, it was a 41-0 loss at home to Georgia. So, I mean, that's not going to help you sell when you bring out these alternate uniforms and then you lose 41-0.
Number of college football games broadcast nationally, that means absolutely nothing. It was a huge advantage for Tennessee, but now they're all broadcast nationally or streamed near you. That is, can I just go ahead and move past that one because that's not a factor. It's a great point by you, but they're all on TV now. And, Philip Fulmer used to go into Terry Fair's house at Arizona and say, we've got 8 games nationally televised, so you'll be able to see your son. And he was, oh, great. And the mom's like, oh, great. But nowadays they're all on TV. Last thing you put was prestige. Can I get a little more info on that? Oh, sorry.
Well, there's one more before that, the pedigree of a head coach.
Oh, I missed college pedigree of a head coach. This one, okay, let's start with prestige first. I want to go back to this one because I think I may disagree with you on two, but prestige of the program you had at number 1. Why is that overvalued?
Because athletic directors, and you've heard Tennessee do this, you've heard other places, they say, because of our history of success, we have a lot to sell to a recruit. Well, a recruit doesn't care that you won the national championship in 1998. Recruits today weren't born then. They don't care that Notre Dame has however many national titles. They last won one in 1989. I was 1 when Notre Dame won their last national title.
I was 1.
So, like,
it was a great year for you, though.
89?
No, you were 1. What a great year when I was 1. You didn't have a worry in the world.
I didn't. But I was really thinking, when is Notre Dame going to win their next title? No, I'm kidding. But this one bothers me because here's where prestige helps insofar as if you have a great history, then you probably have a great fan base. So then your great fan base at stadiums can help sell recruits. But just prestige alone, there's not a recruit in the world that says, man, look at the football history of this program. I want to commit there. Like, you think otherwise Georgia Tech and Pittsburgh would be getting top 3 recruiting classes every year. They're not.
Okay, slight pushback is that prestige also could mean you have more legacy players. Okay, so like Cade Mays never transfers back to Tennessee if his dad didn't play there and he didn't grow up there. So slight pushback, but I agree with you on that. Overvalued college football. Okay, so we're going backwards. So the list is, because I'm butchering Calhoun's great column. Number 5, a coach's ability to recruit. Number 4, off-field gimmicks that create buzz. Number 3, number of college football games nationally broadcast. These are the 5 things schools' athletic directors overrate when trying to build their college football programs. And I love this when Caleb is able to dive into something like this. And we got number 1 as prestige. Also, TCU, do they have great prestige? No, and they had a pretty good year last year. To support your point.
Princeton has the greatest prestige of any college football program ever, if you really think about it, given the history. I don't think they're getting top 5 talent.
Yeah. And Yale's isn't bad, even though they misspelled the name of their school. Shouldn't it be Y-E-L-L? Joking. All right, college football pedigree of the head coach. I don't know where you're going with this, to be real honest with you, because I thought Nick Saban was not a loser because he was with the Dolphins and they were struggling. And I thought because of his college football pedigree at LSU and making Michigan State somewhat relevant early in his career, that he would be a lock at Alabama. So this one throws me off a little bit, to be real honest with you.
Pedigree is about your connections. So Derek Dooley and Lane Kiffin both were hired in part because they were the sons of great coaches.
Okay, I see where you're going.
And so for Dooley, I will never forget Mike Hamilton in the first minute of the press conference. He had a 5-year tutelage under Nick Saban. Who cares? Okay, we've seen with coaching trees now. We should know enough to know just because you worked under someone, that means nothing in terms of how good of a head coach you're going to be. at all. It literally means nothing. Your own. What's Josh Heupel's pedigree? Barry Odom at Missouri. Okay, yes, Bob Stoops, who fired him, and Barry Odom at Missouri, and Matt Wells or whatever at Utah, somebody like that. Like, and he's working out pretty good at Tennessee right now. I mean, what's Dabo Swinney's pedigree? Tommy Bowden, not Bobby Bowden, Tommy Bowden. Okay, and he's got 2 national titles. So,
hey, hold on. Tommy tried his best. Tommy gave it his all, Caleb. So let's not throw Tommy Bowden under the bus.
I'm sorry, he tried very hard.
He tried. What's next? Are you gonna?
I'm just saying that, like, pedigree. We hear this all the time. Coach, how many times do coaches get hired because of other coaches they're connected to? And it is one of the most overrated things ever done in hiring college football coaches, and it drives me insane, honestly. And
who was the Bowden that I get them confused? That went 12-0 at Auburn.
Terry. That was Terry.
Terry was very fond. Terry stopped by a radio station I was at one time and was very fond of the secretary that showed him to the studio. She was a young, pretty lady, and Terry.
Isn't that why he had to leave his job?
I don't know, but I just know he liked. Her name was Kendra, and he liked her a lot, and requested a phone number. That's all I'm saying.